simple, single-celled creatures. 2.1 billion years ago, on the 50th floor, we find the first cells with a nucleus. The type of cell we see in 99% of living things today. From here, we have to travel all the way up to the 80th floor, 600 million years ago, before we find the first animals. Scientists think these inch-wide discs are the remains of cup-shaped creatures that lived on a muddy sea floor. They're similar to modern sea anemones. Finally, 2 floors later, life has really taken off. These fantastic creatures are from the Cambrian period, 500 million years ago. They are very different from the simpler life that existed before. They have heads and limbs. Their strange shapes and elaborate bodies reveal that life has become more varied and more complex. The dating of fossils confirms Darwin's prediction that life started out simple with no evidence of complex life until much later. Living things weren't all created at once, but over thousands of millions of years. The theory of evolution passes the first 2 tests. But Darwin's biggest idea, and the one on which his whole reputation rests, is his third claim. His explanation for how life became more complex. Darwin said there was a force of nature that created new species. He called it natural selection. But what is natural selection? And can it really have transformed a few simple bacteria into the rich, complex life forms we see today? Panama, Central America. As dawn breaks, the forest comes alive. This is one of the richest environments on Earth. Here, more than anywhere, you cannot avoid one inescapable fact. Life is varied. Biologist David Rubik of the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute has spent 30 years studying the wildlife here. Even after all that time, he's still amazed at the diversity of life in this small patch of jungle.
Look at all the action here. If we looked around here, we would find almost 500 different kinds of butterflies that live just in this 1 acre of tropical forest.
Even in the tiny area the crane covers at full reach, scientists have found 240 species of plants, over 4,000 species of insects, and nearly 50 species of mammals. And they're still counting. But what created this dazzling diversity? And how did the Earth's myriad of species come to be? Some think they must be the work of a divine creator. Darwin, on the other hand, claimed that they evolved naturally through a process he called natural selection. It's one of the most breathtaking ideas ever conceived. But what is natural selection, and how does it work? How can a blind, undirected force of nature create new species? Darwin saw the answer in an unlikely place: the relentless slaughter of the natural world. Nature is brutal. Most creatures that are born on this earth die before they can reproduce. And it's not just animals. Most plants die young too. But according to Darwin, out of this ghastly slaughter, something beautiful emerges. Some individuals have characteristics which make them more likely to survive. Perhaps they have sharper eyes or quicker hooves to help them escape a predator. Either way, these individuals are more likely to live long enough to produce young. This is survival of the fittest. And it's mainly the fittest who pass their characteristics on to the next generation.
In natural history, there's a future The future belongs to the fit.
Darwin said that over many generations, these small differences can grow into large differences. Eyes get sharper, legs go faster. Eventually, the changes become so great, they lead to new species. This explains how life gets more complex. But how does it get more diverse? How does one species become two? According to Darwin, the answer lies in the environment. Imagine that a group of brown bears leaves its natural home and heads north to the Arctic. In this new environment, a bear with light-colored fur will find it easier to hunt seals, making it more likely to survive. More light-colored bears reproduce, and eventually the color of the bear population changes. According to the scientists, that's what happened. Step by step, a population of brown bears became polar bears. One species became two. This is Darwin's big idea: evolution by natural selection. Species can branch off like limbs of a tree and over time evolve into new species. It's an extraordinary idea that tiny changes, each offering some small advantage, can build up into a new species. But is it true? Darwin's opponents say not. They argue that many animals have features so complex that they can't possibly have evolved. The aerodynamics of a hummingbird's wings, the pumping action of a beating heart, the firing of neurons in an active brain. But are these the work of a supreme designer, or did they evolve by natural selection? Critics of Darwin's theory focus their attacks on one organ in particular. The eye, they argue, only works when it's fully formed. Like a camera, the eye needs a lens to focus the image, an iris to control the amount of light that enters, and photoreceptors to detect that light. What use, they ask, is a half-built eye? To show that natural selection works, scientists have to demonstrate that an eye could evolve in small steps, each step offering an advantage over the one before. At Lund University in Sweden, Dan Erik Nielsen researches animal vision. He's convinced that eyes evolved by natural selection, not just once, but several times.
So these are eyes of box jellyfish. Each animal has 4 of these structures, and each carries one large lens eye, a smaller lens eye, one pair of slit eyes, and one pair of pit eyes. They've got 24 eyes altogether, but they haven't got a brain.
Our eye is very sophisticated, but could it have evolved from simple eyes like these? Nielsen has built models to show how natural selection can turn a simple patch of light-sensitive cells, like these, into a complex eye, step by tiny step. The first shows the earliest stages of eye evolution. It demonstrates how a flat piece of light-sensitive skin could deepen over thousands of generations to form a depression.
And if you hold this model up against the light, you can see that the flat piece of skin gives you no information about where the lamp is.
But if, step by step, the eye socket got deeper and the opening at the front smaller, represented here by the ping-pong balls, the direction of the lamp becomes clearer. Each step offers an advantage over the one before. Pit eyes like this are used by some flatworms. Detecting the direction of light helps them avoid predators. Nielsen believes that in some animals, the opening at the front of this depression got smaller and smaller. To demonstrate what this does to the image, Nielsen uses a model with an iris that he can gradually close.
with the iris fully open, you get this very blurred image. And if I wave my hand here, you can